Da kan vi få lov å si velkommen. Tusen takk for at dere er kommet hit for å være her med oss i kveld. Vi vil gjerne begynne med å si tusen takk til Litteraturhuset for at vi får være her, og spesielt takk til Heidi og Inga som har organisert dette arrangementet. Så vi er altså kunstnergruppen Alt går bra. Og så har vi med oss professor Ove Arntzen fra Norske i Bergen, som er en autoritet innen sitt felt teatervitenskap, spesielt når det gjelder eksperimentelle performative praksiser. Kan du si det sånn? Nå tror jeg at dere som er her kjenner litt til arbeidet vårt, men jeg kan jo ta en kjapp introduksjon likevel. Så Alt går bra er altså en kunstnergruppe som arbeider i feltet kunst og politikk. Vi er 3. Det er Branko her, meg selv Agnes, og en som heter Oskar, som ikke kan være med oss her i kveld. Så vi lager utstillinger, vi produserer tekst, og vi publiserer bøker. Og vi lager ulike former for presentasjoner, diskusjoner og performative arrangementer. Alt går bra ble formet i 2015, og vi er basert i Bergen og i Paris. Og vi har presentert arbeidene våre på Litteraturhuset i Paris, på Victoria og Albert Museum i London, på Kode her i Bergen, og så er det vi som står bak foredragsserien Tovabien, som stort sett har foregått på Bergen kunsthall planverk. Så i dag så tenkte vi at vi skulle fortelle om et av våre prosjekter som heter Den Norske Idealstaten. Vi begynte arbeidet med Den Norske Idealstaten i 2017. Idealstaten, det er som kjent et begrep fra den greske filosofen Platon. Og prosjektet er rett og slett en nyskriving av hans bok Staten sammen med den norske befolkningen. Så prosjektet er grovt sett delt i 2 faser. Den første består av samtaler, forsamlinger, presentasjoner og lesegrupper. Så her er et avisoppslag fra Kirkenes, når vi var her i fjor, hvor vi da hadde en del sånne type arrangementer. Her er det samme fra Ålvik, som jeg kanskje kjenner til, ikke så langt herfra. Dette er også i Ålvik. Og her er Levanger på et bibliotek. Og så kommer vi til den andre fasen. Den finner sted i atelieret. Der tar vi tak i det materialet som vi henter fra samtalene, og produserer kunstverk basert på det. Som våpenskjold for fremtidens idealstat, som dere kan se noen eksempler på her. Og her. I tillegg så lager vi faner og tekstilarbeider, sånn som det her. Så vi har allerede vist deler av det materialet i utstillinger rundt omkring i landet. Så første fase av prosjektet det vil da avsluttes her i Bergen nå i høst. Og det blir da etter at vi har besøkt 13 ulike byer og tettsteder i Norge. Fra Kirkenes til Levanger til Kristiansand. Og vi har holdt nøyaktig 82 arrangementer, telte vi, i den perioden. Så blir det flere her fremover. Den fasen avsluttes da ved slutten av året. Og neste år så vil vi fortsette arbeidet med å produsere arbeider for utstillinger. Og reise rundt med det materialet til en del av de samme stedene hvor vi har vært og snakket med folk tidligere, blant annet. Så for oss så finner på en måte Idealstaten veien fra kunstinstitusjonene til ulike steder hvor folk samles, og tilbake til kunstinstitusjoner. Så av de 82 arrangementer vi har holdt, så har 80% vært på ikke-kunstrelaterte plasser. Ok, så etter denne korte introduksjonen, så vil vi snakke litt om hva vi er her for i dag. Så vi er veldig glad for at professor Ove Arntzen er her for å gå i dialog med oss om de kunstneriske strategiene vi benytter i prosjektet Den Norske Idealstaten. Vi tenkte at kanskje vi skulle snakke om vårt arbeid i relasjon til Manifest for et nytt teater av Pier Paolo Pasolini fra 1968, og komme litt inn på situasjonistene, både de internasjonale situasjonistene og de skandinaviske situasjonistene, pluss gruppe 66 her fra Bergen. Da tenker jeg at vi kan gi ordet til deg.
Ja, takk for det. Jeg skal snakke først på norsk, og så gå litt over til engelsk etterpå. Dette med alt går bra er jo en veldig typisk situasjonistisk idé, og også litt element av fluxus. Det at man arbeider med den type strategier i dagens kunst, og for så vidt teater og litteratur, ikke minst, har noe med å finne tilbake til den type strategier som var veldig vanlige på 1960, særlig 1960- og 1970-tallet, før vendingen mot det visuelle på 1980-tallet. Så var det mer den individuelle og kollektive handlingen som bestemte de kunstneriske strategiene. Og en slik gruppedannelse hadde man jo her i Bergen i 1966 med gruppe 66, som jo sikkert flere av dere, eller alle sammen, sannsynligvis har hørt om. Og jeg skal sitere fra min artikkel om gruppe 66 i Kunst Pluss, nummer 1, 2011, hvor det heter at gruppe 66 er en levende legende i norsk kunsthistorie med sine utstillinger preget av aksjoner og happenings i Bergens kunstforening. Det har svært sporadisk vært forsket på eller skrevet om denne gruppedannelsen, men i de siste årene, altså fra omkring 2010, har det endret seg. Interessen for visuell kunst i skjæringspunktet mellom performance og teater har økt. Og begrepet performance går jo tilbake til ca. 1970 og erstattet happenings og aksjonsbegrepene. Så det performance-begrepet er blitt gyldig på mange måter for alle slike aksjonsbaserte handlinger, som jo kan være både av konseptuell karakter, men også av koritus-karakter. Og koritus, altså CO-ritus, er jo nettopp en strategi som ble utviklet og brukt av gruppe 66, inspirert av Jens Jørgen Thorsen, den danske situasjonisten som også var med i gruppe 66-handlingene eller aksjonen i Bergens kunstforening i året 1966. Og han har vært med på å utvikle dette som en strategi i den danske situasjonismen, som vi også kaller gjerne for den skandinaviske situasjonismen, også kjent som Bauhaus-situasjonisme. Og det handler om at kunstverket er noe man er i dialog med. Altså kunstverket er dialogen. Og det kan eksemplifiseres med for eksempel action painting, og hvordan action painting inneholder en dramaturgi, og hvordan de som utfører action painting faktisk kan danse, ha en koreografi, og de tar gjerne applaus etterpå, som er kjent fra noen av bildene fra gruppe 66. Jeg kan sende rundt den artikkelen, så kan dere se på de bildene der. Så det som er forskjellen på den skandinaviske situasjonismen, eller Bauhaus-situasjonismen, og den franske situasjonismen representert av Guy Debord, er jo nettopp at man insisterte på at man skulle arbeide med kunst, mens Guy Debord ville avskaffe kunsten. Så i kontinentalt sett så ble, bortsett fra noen gruppedansere i Tyskland, Dr. Spohr for eksempel, så ble situasjonismen en filosofisk bevegelse som utviklet begreper som psykogeografi, som er et veldig viktig begrep, og som er veldig i omsetning i for eksempel England, der er et senter for psykogeografi, eller psychogeography i London. Og det igjen har med dette som vi tidligere kalte for flanering å gjøre. Altså det med vandring i en by, og hvordan man utforsker byen ved hjelp av vandring. Noe som ble utviklet også som også i kunstnerisk retning av den tyske kunstneren Wolf Forstell, som også var kjent som fluxuskunstner. Det å utforske labyrinter, for eksempel. Når det kommer til dette med koritus, så er ikke det kjent utenfor Skandinavia. Det er veldig unikt skandinavisk eller dansk-norsk fenomen, som også ble praktisert i Sverige i forbindelse med Draka-bygget, som jo var et senter for disse Bauhaus-situasjonistene i Skåne i Sverige. Og det var vel der man også planla av hodekappingen av den lille havfrue på lange linje i København, en event som jo alle har hørt om, ikke sant? I hvert fall alle over en viss alder. Det var en svær utstilling i Kristianstad i Skåne her for et par år siden, med en kjempesvær dokumentasjon av hva som egentlig skjedde. Og konklusjonen var at den som hadde utført det hele var en italiensk baron som bodde i Oslo. Det var det man, sånn forklarte man det. Sannsynligvis var det Jens Jørgen Thorsen og kanskje Jørgen Nash som hadde gjort det personlig. Vi vet ikke helt sikkert. Så disse bevegelsene kommer selvfølgelig, har enda røtter lenger tilbake til Cobra-gruppen, og før det igjen selve Bauhaus, som jo har 100-årsjubileum i år, 2019, som dere jo vet. Så hva har dette så å gjøre med alt går bra? Jo, det er jo nettopp det alt går bra har som strategi. So I can start speaking English now so that Branko will understand my point more precisely. So the Alcobra strategies are really recycling the Scandinavian fluxus and the coritus. And the dialogic aspect is related to also textual presentations and representations. And that's where the manifesto of Pasolini comes in, because Alcobra did a project in Gallery 3,14 that some of you might have attended, inviting people to speak on the basis of the Pasolini manifesto on the text in theater. And everybody knows that after 1970, the text more or less was degraded in theater. It was not like made into the most important theatrical aspect, because the action, the visual dramaturgy, the performative in the conceptual sense was prevailing in the theater. But still, it was a mystery for me when I was asked by Branko and Agnes, could I give a comment on Pasolini's text? And I had to admit, well, we never read that text in theater studies. Why didn't we do that? And I had to do some research and found a very vibrant discussion about text and body in Italian theater in the 1970s. So, well, the immediate connection to Alcobra is of course that the text is the basis for a dialogue. We use text to communicate, and also a lot of the basis of Branko and Agnes' work lies in the antiquity, like in Plato, the state, the ideal state. And today there is a movement, or there's a turn towards reinventing the text in theater and in performance art, which means that the text is validated as important for the communication. but it is of course related to the communication is more based in the ritual than or it is equivalent. The ritual and the textual is equivalent in a way. So then we comes back to what I defined as visual dramaturgy, the juxtaposition of text and image. And if you see over there the new drapeau, fane, and Norske Idealstat, it could be taken into the 1st of May procession or even shown at 17th of May celebration. So to put it short, it's a recycling of many trends in the performative and theatrical, but most important, I think, personally, is the coditus aspect that is described in the article in Kunst Plus, and then comes, of course, the action art as such. Let me also mention this book, Never Know Performance Art, which was published in English by the Volver Verlag in Berlin. And there is a collection of texts from a conference that I think Karin Kiphoff organized, more or less, or was it during joint?
Yeah, joint.
At that time, Bergen Art Academy in Sundsgate. Pardon?
Pre-performance art.
Pre-performance, yeah. So what about Fluxus then? Fluxus movement was never really having any influence in Norway. It is described by Ken Friedman, an American Fluxus artist, who asked the question, why didn't it take hold in Norway? We know only about a couple of events that took place in students' cafes in Oslo in the early 1960s, 63, 64, like with music scores. And music performance of Fluxus concerts is very much behind the new music movement since the 1970s. So I shall not enter into that, but of course it has a strong part in music as well. But when I use the word score, it is an English word which reflects the description of what we are going to do. It's a kind of writing a play. You write somebody standing over there and folding a piece of paper. Someone else is keeping coughing. Somebody is taking on his or her shoes. So like a series of events, and the description of event is also verbal. Like you write a plan for what's going to happen, and this kind of dramaturgy is, I think, what they are doing.
I remember you were talking about scores in relation to our work already
Yes.
2 years ago.
2 years ago, yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me maybe I start getting out of time, but I would like to quote from this book, from my article in this book. To find the right quote, maybe one could relate it to mass media culture, Baudrillard, who writes that one of the characteristics of our society concerning professional knowledge and personal development is recycling. Baudrillard applies the term in relation to updating to process of becoming professionally aligned with a historical period of time. And it is out of this understanding of the term that I will transfer the recycling metaphor so that it may be applied to the understanding of effects which are working on extending the boundaries of how you are able to enter and exit works of art by quoting, referring and paraphrasing involving the action, the word, the phrases, and I would say, and the bottom line, the coditus, the interaction, which can also be explained by the already famous concept by Nicolas Bourriot, relational aesthetics. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to give some comments, maybe?
Yeah, so maybe, can you hear me? Because my voice is... yeah, maybe before commenting on what kind of Ove said, I think maybe it's important to say that the Plato's Republic is a dramatic text in itself. So it's a dialogue, it's philosophy written in a dialogical format. And for us it's interesting to recycle this text also in writing dialogically. So in writing what we would call corritus. So how can we rewrite the dialogue in a dialogical way? So meaning by discussing with people in different formats. So our question is, how can we be artists keeping art in what we think is the nature of art? That is, of course, a very large subject, but separate from life, because most of the movements that Ove referred to, and a lot of what is conceived as political art, like community art, does not exactly make distinctions, or purposely they actually try to dilute the differences between art and life. And performance art is like that too. So for us that's a concern that maybe it's a little bit not very common concern nowadays, but we are concerned about dividing art from life and dividing art from politics. And also we are concerned about what does it mean to make art with the public or art by the public. So what is the role of art and what is the role of artists? So we work with these questions that maybe make us a little bit different from what Ove referred to. But I think that what is very similar to a more like situationist trend or strategy is the importance of the situation. So we actually talk about context or frameworks. So how that is that we perceive that our work tries to create contexts that are different, but they are not maybe to escape and be different from reality, as maybe Guy Debord wanted to. But for us are contexts that actually promote a farther and deeper engagement with reality.
Yes, it's a kind of joint venture in between the Scandinavian situationism and the Guy Debord line. And he refused that art should be also artistic. Art was life. And that was what he imposed on the other members. So when the Danish members were refusing that, saying that they wanted to make art, they were expelled from the movement in the so-called Thunder meeting in Hamburg in, I think it was 1962 or 61. And then only Asger Jorn remained in the situationist movement as it was coined by Guy Debord, because Asger Jorn, he was very cunning. He wanted to be both places, and he never really revolted against Guy Debord, but he accepted to finance Drakabygget in Skåne, which is the famous house which still exists, where there was only one Norwegian member, and that was our horse. Fjordahest, who was the Norwegian member of the Dhaka collectivity. I don't know if that at that time was ironically meant, but the main agents in the movement would be the Danish, but then they expanded to Bergen and Gruppe 66, and that is has an enormous significance, also involving people like Kjartan Slettemark, as you know, but he moved to Sweden, he escaped. But this historical dimension with regard to what now is Alt går bra, or similar events or actions in visual art or literature or theater today, we could try to find some examples of some parallels to Alt går bra. Could we do that? Just for the sake of illustration, could we think about, well, now I'm thinking about a group which was predecessing you, did not exactly the same, but there were two visual artists educated at the Art Academy here, or not Studio Atelier, it was the Art Academy, who call themselves Vestlandsmissionen.
Vestlandske kunstmisjon.
Pardon?
Ja, Vestlandske kunstmisjon.
Kunstmissionen, takk. Kunstmissionen. So Kunstmissionen, what they did, and I also wrote about them, is very interesting compared to Alt går bra. So it's like that's a very immediate, not a parallel, but a predecessor, because they don't work anymore. And then there is another example which is also predecessing the company Bagtruppen, which also was founded in Bergen, the performance company Bagtruppen, which also called themselves Bagtruppen because they wanted to mock a little bit avant-garde and doing their own work, not being loyal to the avant-garde movements. So Bag means they are going on the back of the demonstration, like the anarchists did. You know, the anarchists in the ML processions on 1st of May during the 1980s. They were, or in these demonstrations, the Marxist-Leninist movement were dominating, and then the anarchists were allowed to march just on the back of it. Do you remember that?
I'm also thinking about, I'm wondering what you would say about these visual formats that we are choosing to use in this project, because it's not only the meetings with people.
No.
So we are turning that into formats that are quite specific, like the Fane and Våpenskjold, which of course has a performative role, let's say, in their
that's
function in society.
That's the need to create artworks. I think that is what it is about, the need to manifest something which can be kept, which can be remembered, which can be a part of the documentation. Well, I mean, there are many aspects of it, and why you are so in love with coat of arms is a mystery to me. I am myself very interested in coat of arms and the rules of heraldry, but maybe it's a kind of recurrence or idea of the Middle Ages and the world, which was very different and more collective and more into the joint kind of joint venture of religion and philosophy and daily life.
I think you could maybe say also that there is this interest in the things that are there and has been present and has been quite important for us as humanity over a very long time, but that we forget about their existence until somebody tries to touch them.
Yeah.
Like when the local newspaper in Kirkenes wrote about us, that we were working with Våpenskjold, somebody stopped us in the road because she recognized the image of us. Are you touching our Våpenskjold? like it was a very strong reaction, but when it's before we start talking about them, they're not in our consciousness.
But that reminds.
That I think goes for many of the things that we are.
But that reminds me of Amund Sjøli and his work Nordting, which is the present parallel. It exists, and he's very popular in the north of Norway. To my surprise, but he comes from the north, I think. So he makes performance lectures where is standing there as a representative of the state, I'm not so familiar with his work, but he does presentations that are very authentic, of analysis, of criticism, of discourses that are based on knowledge of the oil companies, of what the state, what the politicians are making, the political discussions, and so on. And that makes me remember another.
Let me just put a little funny detail here, because Arntzen is related to, I wonder if it's the father of this one, who is våpenskjoldtegner.
Which it is?
He draws the våpenskjold.
Oh,
he's made a lot of the våpenskjold for the
yes.
So there are more links between us.
But do you remember Fusakongen? Yeah, the Fusakongen, he is in the same kind of direction, but maybe he took it too seriously. I don't know if some points of view on this, when you know starts to compare these kind of artistic projects which are having this recycling dimension of Ritus and happenings, performance, and even Fluxus. We have displayed a little bit now some of the background and the history and similar initiatives. Could we find something in literature of this, since we are in the literary house? Well, the stuntpoetene, stunt poets, they are still working with kind of improvisation, slam poetry. Slam poetry is very much there, and much what is, for instance, going on in Blå in Oslo with people telling about their experiences, true stories from life, like a kind of variety. So yeah, there are similarities.
Yeah, maybe just to go back a little bit to the tangible work that we're doing is something that I see in common. The work that we have produced for this project is that the artwork is done in a format that is kind of pre-created. So meaning the fana is a format that exists. So we take the fana as a support to create the artwork, and the våpenskjold are the same. It's something that exists that we use to create artwork on it. So it's not like a free installation of whatever format that we invented, nor a painting on canvas. And they are something that we think of as symbols of community, and more importantly, something that loses its essence once it is bought by a private individual. So this fana and the våpenskjold are one of the few objects that once you buy it, the kind of value and essence of what the object was made for disappears. So the fact of the purchase, that we're used to being able to buy more and more things, but what we think about these objects is this kind of a contradiction or a repellent action towards buying that is also interesting. But maybe should we try to close it, and if people have questions.
We can open up for comments and questions, maybe. Is that okay with you?
I think I would be interested in hearing more about you were talking about the three different sort of parts of the project. And the first part, which was very much about the dialogues that you had with people around in Norway and the different communities that you were in touch with. That would be interesting to hear more about, and how you use the material that comes from that and what you think about it.
It's actually, it's been a lot of surprises along the way. Of course, as the project has progressed, we've also kind of experimented a little bit with different ways of reaching different people, but we feel that now we have a rather representative material at this point of several hundred people, and it will continue in Bergen. Now, and one thing that really strikes me is that presenting yourself as an artist is not necessarily the best introduction, but when a little bit of trust is being established, and we talk about it as an art project, it's amazing how much love and enthusiasm for art as a form that you encounter. Even if it might not be perceived as art, this everywhere that you're doing.
Yes, and this reminds me also, I mean, to be even more precise in finding some present day concepts of describing your work, forum or community. Community work, forum work. You may have heard about Auguste Boal, who made invisible theater, like actions in the street and people having to try to find out what's happening. Or well, I mean, there are parallels, especially in the community-based, and much of what we have described, or what I have described, is also related to community aspects of the art, which is also a long history, of course. So
what I wanted to kind of say about this bit about the art is that often we are talking to people who don't have a relationship to the art institution, but who, even if they don't feel like, they feel maybe that this threshold is a bit high, it doesn't mean that they are not interested in art or something. And that's where we find that we can, the project acts a little bit as a bridge between not just us being in the community, but then we can invite these people into the institution with exhibitions. This bridging for us is a kind of important part of the...
Yes, and there is a concept, institutional criticism. So, and this is the paradox of Art Går Bra, is love for the emblems, which can be explained like I did, heraldry, the medieval ages, the kind of metaphysical and rhetorical dimension that we have if you look about at the medieval ages and the pre-modernist ages. But seen from the perspective of today, of course, cultivating emblems or coat of arms has something to do with identity, as you also said, that people have cherishing their coat of arms, the Våpenskjold in Kirkenes or whatever, when you and even that kind of fane or drapeau is also very much reminding of the workers' movement. So this kind of contradiction between emblems of power and emblems of contra power,
but all the time emblems of collectivity somehow, right? That it's not my individual identity there.
No,
it's the collective.
Yeah.
We are walking behind the fane together. This term has come up quite a lot when we're working on this, and it's actually interesting as well that something we didn't expect is that when we've summed up the answers we have until now, 80% of people are talking about the same thing. And it's actually not the environment, it's not the climate. It is, they want more contact between people. They want more contact points in real life, and they want more community. and more
Yeah.
dialogue with others.
Mm.
This is by far the most important,
Mm.
because we are asking people not to complain. It's not allowed to complain. We are asking them to talk about what they would like. What kind of society would they like to see in the future? And then that's what really...
Yeah, so we do this in private conversations, like surveys one-to-one, that sometimes are very fast, but other times we have this set up so that people can talk to us for like half an hour. Okay. So they are far from being even. So there's, with some people we have a lot of very long discussions, then others are more like with a group of 3 or 2 people. And then others are just larger formats like assembly-like or just round tables. So that's how we get this information.
But how does it differ from investigation, like kvalitativ metode, undersøkelse and forskning? How do you deliver back the results to us as artists from these kind of
We're doing it
interview?
now, and through these formats, visual formats. But we will also make a book at the end. But we've not exactly decided how we want to present it yet.
Yeah, so you haven't decided how the book or the text format will differ from
No,
academic.
because of course we have all this material that is well kind of archived. But whether we want to disseminate it in that form or not, that's another question.
How would you say that the symbolism portrayed in your Våpenskjold relates to the major finding that you just presented, that people want more community and more contact? Could you sort of just deconstruct some of them for us so that we can sort of understand how those ideals are portrayed?
Like, I think here, this one is maybe the most obvious. It's, you can't see it here, but it's arms that are kind of holding around the earth.
Oh.
And this one is the more they pull, the closer they get together.
They're also tying in knots.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the more you pull, the closer you get together.
And then this one is a kind of well-known symbol for community.
So some of them, with some people, we kind of manage to ask them precisely for what's, if we are going to make a Våpenskjold of your ideal state, what do you see there?
Okay.
So some people answer that question beautifully, other people don't, or whatever. And so some of the people from whom we get answers that we feel that we could make an individual coat of arms of that state, then we do it. If not, they are like that one with the hands, they represent maybe 80% of the people we talk to.
But there's a porcupine there, isn't there?
Yes.
Isn't that the opposite of what we're talking about?
Actually, this is a symbol that is, I forget now exactly the title, do you remember?
No,
But it's the
very
humble,
long title.
yeah, very long title. It's a humble, this is actually a symbol that we've taken from historical material.
Okay.
So it's there are spikes going from the porcupine into the crown here. So it's the...
So it's the rebellion against
it's the
the
rebellion
arrogance
of the
and
normal
power.
person against the power.
Okay. Well, there you see how important context is, because now that you've sort of put a slant on the way I view these things, they sort of come to life. Yes, the context is very.
Yeah.
Very
So for the
meaningful.
exhibition, normally
And I
we
think,
have like a floor plan
Yeah.
with numbers,
Yeah.
and they usually have titles are quite explanatory, or they.
Tror du ønsket å si noe?
Yeah, this is kind of a new iconography.
Mm.
So, but and you have made this after you have had this process. But have you made this? How have, the question is more: how have you made this? Have you made it together with people, and have you drawn it or pulled it out of old books, or how have you made this?
And we've not made it together with people,
No.
but like Branko was explaining, some people have can come with quite specific ideas. But what is also interesting that sometimes people are talking to us about their ideas of the future society, and then they say, I think the symbol for that should be blah blah, and it's the completely different from what they have been spending then maybe 10 minutes talking about. So it's not
Yeah,
always
some
the
people
same.
say I want to have a waterfall, and a salmon, and a trout. So, or then someone said, I don't want any coats of arms, so we try to kind of destroy it. Or the people were very precise, but we've been using, I don't know, like kind of famous books from very old times for artists. One is called The Iconography or Iconology by Cesar Ripa, and so basically there were manuals that are super interesting, manuals for artists, so they would not deviate that much when they had to render allegories or ideas. So they would talk about that allegory of envy. Let's say you should have certain attributes. So the books are just fascinating. So we are using these books, and we are using also other books that are called emblemata, like emblems, let's say. So these books were kind of quite popular at some point in history, and some people say that they are like the first comics because the format is to have a drawing of some sort that illustrates a say, proverb, or a poem. So it combines visuals with text and poetry sometimes. So these are usually didactic. So they're either about love or about religion or about patriotism, or so they're quite rich in symbology. So we use some of them to
Like the porcupine.
like the porcupine.
It's from November. And also, of course, we've done a lot of research into the heraldic visual language. So where colors and divisions and these things also have their own significance. By the way, yeah. Yeah, the question.
Yes, I was wondering what your relationship is to the idea of the ideal state and how you're using the Republic
Our idea
In
of the
our
idea.
daily life, yeah.
or in the project, like, because is
I
a
think that's
assumption that the people should have an idea of what the ideal state is. Or
Yeah, so
do you
I think that's
problematize it at some point?
a great question, because I think this brings us back to this idea of the context. That's maybe the situation is called situation, and how it is that we try to create context for discussions, and we try to see if it is possible to not bring our ideology into the discussion, and also if the discussions can happen without ideology and without blaming, and how can we use maybe rhetoric and logic and discussions to understand what we want to say, and by no means we need to agree, but how can we bring the discourse further? So we try. So our ideology would be that we need to get together and talk about politics. Politics
That's
is
still an ideal. I mean, that,
Yeah.
in a sense, that's my question, whether the assumption that the point on which you kind of agree, or on which you assume you agree, is that there should be a discussion about the ideal.
or about politics. Let's say.
Let's
To put it in like a we thought that it was very important to try to do a project that was not just critical. So how can we introduce some positivity that for us has to do with agency? So the ideology, let's say, could be that we would like to talk about agency through this project. Is it possible to do something? Yes, no, or whatever. Let's talk about it.
And on a personal note, for me, I remember when we started discussing about this, when I was a a child, I think we were having all these fantasies and ideas about how things would be in the future. But now I feel that this is turned upside down completely, that everything that we normally in everyday life talk about in terms of the future is either very short term or it's negative. So these ideas about we could go in this direction.
Or it's like what you were observing at some point talking to people, it's like less of, like instead of saying,
Yes.
I want more parks, it says, please less
Less
pollution, less,
Yeah.
less, and not more. So it's how the ideology, the project can create context where people can imagine something better that they can do and have agency to do that and not just complain about.
Maybe we need to have something in front of us.
Could I ask a question about procedure?
Mhm.
I mean, in action research, we do a very similar thing to what you're doing, and so you collect things, you listen to people, you sort of refine their ideas, and you make some statement that you've now done through art. And then comes the crucial question of sort of completing the feedback loop by sort of presenting it back to the same people and getting their reactions and refining it and sort of establishing a legitimacy for the works. Are you planning that stage as well?
Yes, and already it has happened to some extent, and it's super interesting. For us, it's super interesting to hear what people are saying, and there is also sometimes I think there's on both parts for the people we have been talking to and us, there is a kind of satisfaction in this closing of the circle,
Yes.
and that when we said we will make an art piece from what you are saying, it actually appears, which is a kind of
Yes, and that's also a very positive thing because you reinforce the agency element in it. I mean, you've invested time. I mean, the people have invested time in you, and you have invested time in them, and they can actually see it and they feel empowered. So it's really an interesting project in that sense as well. It's sort of empowering people.
Do you think there's parallels to this in the historical references that we've been discussing?
Yes, of course there are parallels in historical references. If you think about the third project that the people who made Group 66 in 1966, their third project was in 1975, which was the exhibition about the medical exhibition, or about what did they call this exhibition? No, my mind is slow. It was an exhibition to present problems of contraception, of medical aspects of life. It was some leaves with sitting in it, which has some similar aspects, and that was a project which was very much tuned down when it comes to theatricality or performativity. It was like explaining, telling, as authentic as possible. So maybe that is a parallel of historical parallel.
You take the last question.
Any more questions? We finished. We want to go out in the air, warm air. Perhaps we can close off. Again, you have something you want to say to the end, do you?
Just to remind you what Agnes said at the beginning, that then in September we'll have a few events, like at Media City, or, so we don't have the program yet, but we should look them up on the website, or just so that you know. So
we are
art
updating it all the
institutions.
time on our website.
So the events have been, like Agnes said, like maybe 80% at places that are not art institutions, but we've worked always from the art institution, or as much as we can from we start is our starting point and our end point. So it's kind of trying to open the doors of the institution to the general public, and so we'll be doing that in Bergen throughout, like a few events, doing like pubs and bars and book clubs, museum. And so
Bibliotek, elderly homes. Väldigt different.
So the project started with funding from Kurum, and we should say name the people that that give us money for this project. So it started in 2017 with this. They were super happy because they gave us like the largest amount that they gave from that year to our project, and then we got money also from Fylkes kommune and from Bergen kommune and Kulturad also to do this Pasolini project here with DIT, Teaterhuset, Kulturad.
And Billedkunstnernes Väderleksfond also.
So thank you very much for coming.
And hope to
Further
see you.
questions?
Actually, if you want to take part in this survey, dialogues, conversations with us, a good opportunity will be Kulturnatt on the 13th of September, I think it is, at Kunsthall 3.14. Yeah, there will be talking.
So we'll be there all night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're bringing with you.
Yeah.